So the tribe has spoken, and this is the book we are reviewing. It's Always Another Country by Sisonke Msimang. Let's go. For those who watched my previous video, you know that I listed a number of books that I've been reading during the past couple of months. And a lot of you were very interested in this book and you indicated that you wanted to see a review of it. So it's happening. So this book, like I said, as you can see, it's called Always Another Country. It is a memoir of exile and home. And it is pretty much that. So she takes us through her and her family's journey in exile. So if it was not clear, Sisonke Msimang is South African and she was in exile in Zambia, in Kenya, Canada, came back to Kenya, went to study in the US. So the book is really about her journey, and then she obviously comes back home to post apartheid South Africa. The book is both political and personal, and she does say that it's a love letter to her parents. So after stalking Sisonke online a little bit, I found out that she really puts emphasis on the fact that the book is about an ordinary girl who is just trying to find meaning in what we all know what we all know can be a complicated world. She says the book is about the high points in her life and the low points in her life, and I quite like the fact that she emphasizes that, and she's not romanticizing, exile. She actually even says that her exile was a Portia exile. I quite love the fact that she has this self awareness about her experience. She also says that she really wanted to write her book because she wanted to add to the conversations that are already happening with our generation, and because of South Africa's history, a lot of the memoir that has come out has been by people who are considered heroes and elders, and there hasn't been a lot of memoir by people who are of our generation or people who are ordinary in a sense. I am enjoying this kind of memoir, especially from people like Sisonke who have been in exile and their parents were affiliated somehow with the ANC. That way you get to read about history. You get to read about our history from another generation's perspective, if that makes sense. So she touches on a few themes, but for me, I feel like the book's overarching theme is this idea of you wanting life to go and look like this, and life does that, which is a pretty common theme because I feel like it's such a human thing to have expectations, obviously, of how you want life to be, and then you end up disappointed. And I think a lot of people might disagree with me in terms of what the overarching theme is, but that's what I felt. So for instance, this theme comes across, obviously not obviously, but this theme comes across because she's in exile and she comes back to South Africa, but she's disappointed because the South Africa that is there to meet her is not the South Africa she had hoped for. The people who were fighting for the power, now that they are in power, are not serving the people. So there's that element of disappointment. But you also get that sense when she goes to college in the USA, and the area in which she is in does not feel like the USA. You know how people are going to the States, they have like this this great expectation, and she gets there, it does not necessarily meet those expectations. So there is disappointment when she first falls in love, but there's also like the man she ends up marrying. It's not is not what she was expecting, is not who she was expecting to get married to, or to fall in love with. There's also disappointment around work and what happens at work, and her experiencing major failure around that, or what she considered major failure at the time. So there's also disappointment when she moves into her first home in Joburg, and what happens around there, and all the expectations she has and how they are not met. Yeah, so I feel like, and you are very welcome to disagree with me, but I feel like that is the overarching theme. The secondary theme for me is, what is quite obvious, this idea of belonging and home. I think it's a close second, but it's second nonetheless for me. So besides the overarching themes, she touches really on a lot. She talks about sexual violence, she talks about family, she talks about xenophobia, she talks about racism, she talks about identity, patriarchy, parenting, failure, politics, marriage. I have a list. Yeah, so she touches on a lot. The most surprising thing for me in the book, and I don't know why it was so surprising, maybe it's just because I don't come across this idea a lot in my day-to-day life, but she is very, very aware of her privilege. As a Black middle-class South African, she was very aware of that when she, at a young age, actually, in Kenya, she was very well aware of that when she came back to South Africa, and realizing that not everybody had what she had. She was middle class. She went, even though she was in exile, she went to good schools, she went to a good university, and she had a good job, and that meant she had privilege that other fellow Black South Africans didn't have. And I just found it refreshing, because I don't think it's a conversation that we have enough amongst ourselves. We do have this conversation in relation to whiteness, and we are aware of what privilege whiteness brings, but we don't talk about how they are different classes and different privileges within Black communities. I think it happens. I just don't think it happens enough. So it was quite refreshing to hear her openly and candidly talk about her privilege. The one thing that I loved so much about Sisonke's story was the fact that she was surrounded by Black powerful women. And I think continues to be surrounded by Black powerful women. Her mother was definitely a great example for her. At some point, she was the sole breadwinner, Her Gogo Lindiwe as well was that kind of woman who was powerful, eccentric, and just like no nonsense type of women. So I really enjoyed reading about these kind of characters and her story. So I must say, a couple of people have mentioned to me that they are putting off reading the book because they think it will make them very emotional. That's not the sense that I got, and this is coming from someone who cries about everything and anything. It won't make you too emotional, I don't think. There's certain parts in the book that are very, very sad. Like, for instance, her mom passing away. I don't know if I'm giving away too much there, but her mom passes away, and I cried through that entire section, but I don't think, I was okay reading it. I didn't get too emotional, so please don't put it off. So the only negative thing, it's not a negative thing necessarily, but the only thing I struggled with the book, to be honest, is at some point I was like, okay, Sisonke, you need to wrap this up, I just got really tired towards the end, and some parts, towards the end just feel like they feel like they were an afterthought, they didn't feel like they were part of the original idea or draft of the book. So this is just like the last few chapters. They're great chapters, but I was just like, okay, I'm done now. I need this book to be over. Yeah, but maybe that's just me. I didn't feel like the last few chapters captivated and kept me reading as much as the 70% of the book did. So in conclusion, I'd like to say this book is definitely worth getting. Like I said, Sisonke Msimang is really a brilliant writer, and the fact that she's so considered, in her opinions, in her truths, in her perspectives, it makes this a great read. And it's also very nice, to read a memoir about exile, and commentary on the state of our country from someone who is, more or less my age. So that was the book review. I hope you really enjoyed it. I will admit that I struggled through this video. I don't know why. Maybe I'm just tired. But if you enjoyed this review, please give me a thumbs up. Giving me a thumbs up means more people like yourself will get to see the video and, spread the love. Help my channel grow. If you're not already subscribed, please do subscribe and share the video with your friends. So that's it. I guess I will see you in the next video coming your way very, very soon. All right, take care. Bye. I give up.